BBC Radio Sheffield, you're listening to Paulette Edwards. I recently spoke to Carol Higgins, a woman who's been fighting for decades to get justice for crimes committed against her as a child. And I should let you know that those crimes involve childhood sexual abuse, so please do whatever's best for you in taking care of yourself during the next 10 minutes or so of my interview with Carol. Some of what you're about to hear is quite distressing. Carol really wanted to talk about what happened to her, to help to break the taboo around speaking out about sexual abuse, and she's waived her right to remain anonymous as a victim of sexual offences. Carol grew up in both West and South Yorkshire. She's in her 50s now, and it's only recently that her father, Elliot Appleyard, was jailed for sexually abusing her as a teenager. She first reported her father in 1984 to West Yorkshire Police for raping her, and again in 2005 and several times after that. But a litany of failures made by them in investigating her case meant it wasn't until 2019 that he was finally convicted and jailed for 15 charges, including rape and indecent assault. And it was only last December when West Yorkshire Police apologised to Carol by letter for the way she'd been treated by them over the last 39 years and the long wait for her father's conviction. John Robbins, Chief Constable of West Yorkshire Police, said in the letter it was a matter of profound regret that it took so long for her abuser to be convicted. As part of that apology, Carol was given £15,000 in compensation. Carol's been talking me through her long battle for justice.
I couldn't stop crying. I was having years of therapy and I had a lot of anger, so I decided to go back in 2012, and I actually sought a lawyer out, and he wrote to the police, and then the police said that they never received the letters, but they must have done. He wrote 4 times to them to say that we had corroborative evidence, would they investigate him? And then I went back in 2014, and then I went back in 2015, then in 2000 they closed the door on me again in 2017, and I did my victims' right to review in 2017, and in 2018 they overturned the decision and they said it was going to court in 2019 finally. And when they told me that, I said, I knew it. I knew you weren't going to overturn it. He says, no, we've overturned the decision. Do you understand what we mean? It's going to court. And I thought they were saying it's not going to court because I'd heard it that many times, and so I got it wrong. And I had this my neck started shaking and my body, and then I had this pain in my heart for months and months after, and I went to the doctors. I said, why won't it go away? So even she says, it's stress, you're okay. She said, but so even though I got what I wanted, I felt like my heart were broken. This little girl having to take her dad to court for what he'd done. So just because I got what I wanted, it didn't mean that it wasn't painful.
BBC Radio Sheffield, I'm talking to Carol Higgins. We're talking about her experience of being abused by her father. We're talking about the times that she went to the police to try to get justice done, so to just have someone listen to you, really. It took until 2019 until your father was finally jailed. You got a letter and a settlement from John Robbins, the Chief Constable of West Yorkshire Police. He's offered his sincere apology for the way in which, you were treated. Can anything compensate for that?
No money will ever be able to compensate for the 39 years I've had taken of my life. Sorry for getting upset.
I'm not surprised that you're upset, to be honest. 39 years.
Fighting, yes.
And do you feel that that's still very much part of your day-to-day life then?
I feel like, there's children out there who have suffered what I've suffered, and they're up against what I've been up against with the police. I will always have to use my voice because I'm scared if I don't carry on speaking out, then it will become it will carry on being a taboo subject, familial rape for one, and that I feel like there's a lot of misogyny in that police force, and they're talking about now that lessons have been learnt from my case, but this needs to be dealt with at the root, at the core. So when police are interviewed, they need to be asked at recruitment stage how they feel about paedophilia and child abuse, and the training needs to come in there, not after, and see what kind of attitudes are joining the police force. That's where the changes need to come in.
BBC Radio Sheffield talking to Carol Higgins. She's telling us about her experience. So raped by your father, and then trying to get justice. Well, just trying to get someone to listen to you proved to be decades, didn't it, of trying to get people to actually listen to.
I used to have nightmares, and in my nightmares I was screaming out and nothing was coming out.
You could have remained anonymous among all of this. You chose not to. Why was that?
Because I've still got some self-pride, and he's not going to take my dignity away from me. I've done nothing wrong. And when it was a court case, they asked if I wanted to screen or if I wanted to do it by link, recorded link. And I says, no, I'm standing in front of him. My truth is my defence. And he looked at me when we were in waiting room waiting to go into court, and his eyes locked. You should have seen him, his head down and looking up like that at me. I was surprised to see him. And it was like, this is war now. I've got you where I want you. And I could tell he were thinking, like, how could he called me a liar, and how can somebody call you a liar when they know 100% for a fact that they've done it?
Do you still see that man as your father, Carol?
I can't help. People say, why do you call him Dad? I just can't help it. It's just a name I've called him all my life. I mean, his name's Elliot, and I didn't know he had a nickname called Sam. He told me, because that's a nickname he put on my back with my name and a rose. So he branded me, kept me off school a lot of the time. I didn't actually go all the time like before my mum and dad split up. I were always at home doing housework and doing jobs, and I were kind of slave in that home and looking after my handicapped sister.
You removed the tattoo though, didn't you?
Oh, God, what pain that was. 6 years that took me to get rid of that. Going to a tattoo shop with, and he goes into it, the flesh with a needle without ink, and you have to go deeper than as if you was having a tattoo to break the skin, and then he puts acid pen on it and it bubbles out and then scabs over and then heals and drops off, but you stick to the bed covers and it sticks to your clothes. You keep having to put hot water on to soak it off. And it took me 6 years because I couldn't stand looking in the mirror and seeing it all the time.
Let's talk about what happens then when your father is released. He's in jail at the moment. Do you think about that, Carol?
Yeah, I'm scared of him because he's threatened to kill me. He's already said, I'll have you. That were in 2017. And he's got 22 year, and then they knocked him a year off for his age and for his health, but there was nothing wrong with his health or his age when he were at me. And then because of that, because it's only 20 year, then it's got cut by half to 10. And then I've had a letter from Ministry of Justice that is applying to, and he'll probably be in open prison, also wouldn't have written to me, in 25, 26. So he will have served 6 years before he can come home for a day in open prison.
For you then, this letter from West Yorkshire Police and this compensation, you said it doesn't matter how much money, so you're kind of saying, you know what, that doesn't matter. That's not enough. Do you think anything will give you some peace, Carol?
I think the only thing that gives me peace is being able to speak out and help other people and make sure what happened to me doesn't happen to them. And that gives me peace because at least they don't have to suffer what I suffered.
And there'll be people listening to this who may have had a similar experience to you.
Many, because familial rape, there's more people get raped in the home than stranger danger. And it's a taboo subject, and I don't understand why.
And while ever it's a taboo subject, people are getting away with that kind of harm,
and there's no
they?
Prevention or deterrent strategy for the perverts and for the predators who are doing this.
So for you then, what is next? How I can see how upset you are. I know that I'm doing the interview and I'm looking at you and it's your pain and not mine, but I can feel just how big this is for you, how overwhelming it's been for your life. How can you ever move on from this? Do you think you ever will?
Time will tell, I don't know. It's still raw, isn't it? Because the only fight only stopped in 2024, in December 2023, and I only got it released in April. It was sealed by a judge, the apology. So I still got hope that I will heal, because it's now the fight stopped. I'll never stop fighting for the children, but I've stopped fighting. The fight was against my father. I had a fight with the police, and I'm tired of fighting, and I will always stand up and fight for the children.
There'll be people listening now who may have experienced something similar to you in their past. What would you say to them?
I would say, go to the police, speak your truth, never give up, log everything like I did, get a recording app, and, make sure that you go to the doctors, get therapy. I've been in therapy for years and years. I still have it now.
And what about that challenge of actually going to a station, talking to the police and saying, this happened to me? Where does that courage and strength come from, Carol?
I have a faith. I believe in God, and I believe that God wanted better for my life. And I realised how I was treated wasn't love, but now I know what love is. That's where my strength comes from, because Carol is loved. Even though I might not have grown up knowing it, I believe it now. I believe whatever created me, which I believe, is my saviour.
Carol Higgins. And her decades-long battle for justice over the sexual abuse she suffered as a child by her father, Elliot Appleyard, and the failures by West Yorkshire Police in investigating the case. In a letter of apology to Carol, John Robbins, Chief Constable of West Yorkshire Police, said, any victim of the offence that you had been subjected to should expect to have their case dealt with effectively and quickly with as little re-traumatisation as possible. I profoundly, says this letter, regret that this was not your experience. It is recognised that having to fight for so long to bring your abuser to justice has unnecessarily delayed your recovery from the trauma that you endured. And in closing, may I offer my personal reassurance that West Yorkshire Police has learned from the mistakes made in your case. If any of what Carol has been talking about there, any of her experience has affected you, or you may feel you need some help and support for your own experience, anything you've been through or anyone you know has been through, you can get details of organisations that you can go to for support via the BBC Action Line, and online it is bbc.co.uk/actionline.